If there's one thing I've learned about business over the years, is that it pays to be yourself. Even if there are people demanding that you do so, you can't afford to compromise on the things that make you who you are, because that's what got you into this position in the first place. And you have to keep reminding yourself and the people around you of that, no matter what's going on. About an hour before our home opener, I felt the same uneasiness that I'd felt after the United game coming back to me. Things around the stadium were already tense, and I knew that anything but a win against a newly promoted club was not going to make them any better. But I also knew that this was not the same team as it was a week ago. Chris, what's the situation on our center back? Trevor Chalobah or Fikayo Tomori? Based on our numbers, one of those two is going to be our next player in the door.
I'm afraid it's bad news. I've already spoken to Chelsea, and they're unwilling to make a deal.
For Chalobah?
For anyone. I don't think they want to be seen helping out a rival.
And they're unwilling to budge on that?
I'm afraid so. The number they quoted us was more than double what we think he's worth.
That was Chalobah off the board, effectively. We had a little bit of money left to work with, but not enough to pay 40 or 50 million for Trevor Chalobah. You got anything on Tomori, Ali?
My contacts in Milan say that they're willing to let him go for 44 million.
Okay. Can we make that work, Chris?
Maybe, but it would be tight, and we wouldn't have much left to do anything else if we did.
That was a problem too. We had other areas in the squad that needed addressing before the window closed. Okay, assuming we can't get Chalobah or Tomori, do we have anyone else that we can make work?
I've got an idea, but I'm probably going to have to convince you that it's a good one.
He was right. Liverpool's Joe Gomez is a player that we like a lot, but at the time of that meeting, he'd missed about 200 games in his career due to injury.
They want 24 million for him, but they're willing to let us take him on loan first.
24 million for Joe Gomez. Are you sure it wouldn't be a better idea to just dump that money into the Thames?
It's a loan with an option to buy. No obligation.
With a sizable loan fee, I'm sure. Is this why we sold our best striker and our best midfielder? So we could give our medical department something to do?
As usual, it was up to me to be the deciding vote between Chris and Ali. I could see the articles being written about it already. Fulham spin big to sign injury-prone Liverpool squad player. It was almost too easy for them. But on the other hand, Chris showed us that, according to the data, he was the exact kind of profile that we needed, and that his injury record had been significantly better over the past couple of seasons. And that perception of him being injury-prone would also make the deal cheaper, which could play right into our hands. When in doubt, go with what makes who you are. You know what? Let's do it. Ali, give Liverpool a call. He begrudgingly agreed. Chris told me that Ewan was going back to his usual system for the upcoming game. Part of me wondered if he'd switch it up in the first place to try and appease everyone else. Alistair, for instance, had read something in an article somewhere about Ewan's tactics being too gung-ho for the Premier League, and had then proceeded to absolutely grill him on that very question during one of his interviews. I, for one, was excited to see Ewan go back to his roots. Go with what you know and all that. You might crash and burn, but at least you'll feel good about how you got there.
Well, hello and welcome to Craven Cottage.
Moments like the beginning of that first home match are what make all of the time, effort, and energy feel worth it. Despite all of the protests outside the stadium about the new ticketing system, despite all of the skepticism about who we are and what we're doing at the club, despite any doubts inside of my own head, being able to be a part of that was amazing. I didn't know much about the football world when I started this, but I knew that I wanted to get into the Premier League, and moments like that were why. You go with what you know, and you'll be surprised where it can take you, including into a 1-0 lead against Leicester.
Now, this has to be. And it's an early lead. A terrific start.
People online have been jokingly referring to our new style of play as Ewan ball, but that goal against Leicester was exactly that. And they weren't done yet.
Great chance here. Oh, that's not properly away. But he can't do anything to keep that one out.
Honestly, if we'd drawn up the perfect way for this game to go, we could not have done much better than this. Were there some mistakes in there? Absolutely. Our captain, Bernd Leno, had to come to our rescue on multiple occasions. But that's why he's there, right? On the whole, Ewan's tactical changes and our new personnel seemed to work great. The game ended 3-1, with our boys closing things out rather professionally in the second half. It was our first win in charge of Fulham, and it was that much sweeter because it was at home, in front of our fans, and because, if I'm honest, we deserved it. We were great, and after the game, Ewan was asked about the excellent performance of several of his players. He was also asked about the suit he was wearing, which he answered in the most Ewan way possible.
I'm in the Premier League now. I figured I'd look the part.
Later, I told Chris to tell him that he didn't have to do that.
You know you can tell him yourself, right?
I did know that, but I've made it a policy over the years to not get in my employees' way unless I absolutely have to. Go with what you know, right? And Ewan should go with what he knows too. He should be himself, because that's the guy we hired.
Montgomery's Fulham passed their first test in the EFL Cup this week, but it won't do much to ease concerns about this team or their new ownership group. In fact, sources from inside the club have been critical of their management in recent days, citing confusion over the decisions to sell key members of the squad and replace them with players on short-term loans or permanent signings with obvious question marks. The team's heavy rotation in their first cup tie, which very nearly saw them eliminated, also seems to support the theory that the new owners would prefer to focus on the league rather than less profitable cup competitions. Fulham are lucky to have progressed to the next round of the League Cup, but regardless of how far they end up going in that competition, there will almost certainly continue to be protests at each one of those matches, in addition to the ones in the Premier League.
And we've got Premier League action coming right up. It's Ipswich Town up against Fulham. Well, thanks, Derek. 2 games in.
When I got into this job, I knew there would probably be some pushback. There are always complaints about ownership, regardless of what business you're in, but especially in football, and especially if you're American. I knew there would be some of that, but I thought that the antidote was winning. The signs at the protests say things like progress over profit, but from my point of view, we are making progress. The team is being run more sustainably. We've put money into our training facilities and our youth teams. And most importantly of all, we haven't lost a game yet. Earlier today, we beat Ipswich 7-1. More evidence that what we're trying to do is working. But not everyone saw it that way.
Good win today. I was a bit worried after we almost threw that cup tie away, but the boys played well.
This was about as much praise as one could expect to get from Alistair, but despite the big win, I still sensed there was more he had to say.
Do you know what Ewan's thinking with Hackney?
How do you mean?
I mean, why is he getting so many minutes? I thought he was a development player.
Well, I think that was Chris's plan initially, but he's been playing well. And he got a bunch of minutes in the championship the last couple of seasons, so he's ready if we need him.
I'm open to that. But I do worry about replacing our best midfielder with a kid from the championship. That and Nelson. He's on loan, isn't he? Why is he starting over players that are actually a part of our squad?
He's our player until he isn't, Allie. I think that's probably what Ewan would say too. And, he played really well today. Pressed hard, got a couple of assists. I thought he was really impressive.
Maybe. But I just wonder if any of this works against anyone besides Ipswich. What about when we play a team that's actually good?
Not much to say about the game tonight. We finally got our first loss to Man United in the League Cup, in a game that we really should have won. We are going to get absolutely hammered for this in the press, and by we, I mean me. Even though we won 3 games in a row before tonight. Go with what you know, I always say, even when it's hard. Well, it's getting harder. We've got Man City coming up soon. Guess we're going to find out if I actually mean what I say.
Hello. Thank you guys for watching episode 2 of The Top Flight. It's wonderful having you here with us. I'm Will, and I'm sort of in charge around here, for better or for worse. I wrote and edited and created this whole thing, and I also voiced David Ingle, who is the narrator and the main character on The Top Flight. If you enjoy what you just watched, do me a favor and give it a like, and subscribe to the channel for more episodes, which will be coming out soon. If you want a little bit more of what you just watched, both in the sense of material, but also getting it more quickly, I would highly encourage you to sign up for our Patreon, the link to which is in the description of the video below. You will get access to episode scripts and my weekly commentary videos, which I'm actually growing to enjoy quite a lot. And if you want to leave a comment on what you thought about the episode or any questions they might have, we're going to try and address all of those in a Q&A towards the end of the season, which will also be over on the Patreon. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed your time with us this week, and we'll be back soon with another episode. I will see you guys then. So long.